Six Bayonets, comrades. This is the Chief Guard of the Republic Veteran Radio Shoutout Show with your hosts, co-host Mike Tuman and Paul Burvid, coming to you every Saturday, noon to 1 on WRMN 1410 AM, Fox River Valley Media Network out of Elgin, streaming on WRMN1410.com. You can follow us on YouTube Live. The studio number here is 847-931-1410. Our text number is 505-926-1410, or you can follow along on the YouTube Live chat and make comments there. We'll try to answer them. We're only going to go like a half an hour live today, and then a half an hour live broadcast over 1410 a.m., but we'll be going the full hour on the streaming on the YouTube and the Facebook Live. So, Paul, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing okay. It's been a little hectic on things, but I'm trying to get stuff done. So one of my buddies that I deployed to Afghanistan with, he was on the show way at its inception. I think he was on my second or third show. Joe Kalasek. He was a Ranger on active duty, and then he was with the Illinois National Guard. And he wanted us to speak today about the Veterans Administration and Veterans Administration hospitals and stuff like that. So if you are a veteran out there and you're listening in and you want to call in and say something about the VA, good or bad experience that you've had, give us a call in and we can address the issue. But, you got to be polite. So, Paul, I asked you, I sent you a text. There was something going last year, and it was a real big push to have this and to have this get through the state Senate. It was Senate Bill
3479.
3479. Yeah. So, in your opinion, as a former charitable trust and fraud investigator with the Attorney General's office, how does that bill look to you?
Well, there wasn't much that I found on it, but what it says is if you're offering, and I don't understand this, what they were saying, but if you're offering services for veterans groups, or their families, at the outset of the services, you have to provide them with both written and oral notification that you are doing this. But to me, it seemed like it related to that individual who was receiving compensation. But the concern I have is that might, just out of anything, that might just require you to do that anyway, whether you're getting paid or not. Because, there's always a possibility today that you could be getting money for something, whether, they count services, how many people did you see? If you're a group that provides services for 242, you're entitled to get, financial remuneration for this. So out of an abundance of caution, I think that would be required to be given out whenever you provided veteran services. And that's troubling to me because now I don't know if your post has to do that all the time, or, if you're collecting money, for like a fundraiser, whether you have to do that all the time. So I don't understand the import of it. I mean, were there groups that were charging veterans differently?
Right,
well, then that's what that's about.
So, the guy, It's My Money and I Want It Now on television.
Yeah.
The lawyer, and people have these annuities, and they have structured settlements where insurance companies are going to pay them out, monthly, almost like a trust, or people even have trust funds like that. And they go with this guy, and he gives them a chunk of money up front, but it's greatly reduced to them if they had waited and collected it every month. It's a greatly reduced amount, but now they got this big chunk of change, right, all at once. But then the next month comes around and that little check doesn't come in. So it's all fine until they blow through the principal, then they're out of luck because they just signed over their stuff to this guy or signed over part of it. Well, what happens in the VA when you're applying for disability and the VA pays cash every month according to your percentage of disability and the amount of dependents you have, right? So the VA forms can be very confusing, all right? And online, where it tells you how to fill them out, that can be confusing too. And getting all the paperwork together for any injuries you might have had, you could have had a bad back injury when you're jumping out of an airplane, parachute. You could have, you could have got hit by a truck or something else on service, right? So you apply for this disability because it's affecting your ability to have a job in civilian life. And you get onto this thing and you fill out all the paperwork and you send it in and it's flat out rejected because you, as a non-insider and as a non-professional form filler outer, right? You're not a paralegal, right? You're not a person that does reports and forms and knows how to word them logically, succinctly, and have the evidence lined up. You just send them this mishmash of paperwork and it goes into the VA and then the VA denies the claim. So then you have to do an appeal to the claim, which is a little more difficult with more forms. Right? This can be very, intimidating to your average person. All right, so very intimidating to the average person. So they have these companies that go out there and say, hey, we'll help you fill out the form. And it's not an upfront cut. They don't, someone will do it for like an upfront cut. Give them a couple $1,000. They'll help you fill out the form. They'll submit it, and that's it. Sort of like filing your taxes, right? If you got very complicated taxes, you go to a CPA, you go to a tax filing service, and you file your taxes, and they charge you an upfront cost, all right? Well, these, what they call claim sharks, all right? They were doing it for a percentage. So let's say you got a guy that was wounded in Iraq. He came back. He never filed for anything. Now he's having more pain and more issues from all the stuff he suffered. And he goes to fill out for the VA disability. And let's say he's 30 years old. And these claim sharks, right, come out and say, 100% guaranteed. We'll get you 100% disability. We'll get you this and everything. And when you fill out the form, they want 25% of what you get forever. So if you're getting $3,000, they want $750 every month for the rest of your life because they helped you fill out these forms. And now that, some of these guys, all right, so it's like $3,600 for 100% disability. And that's like, family of four, you got a family and everything and you can't work because we're disabled for whatever reason. Now you take $750 out of that and you're almost on poverty level. So they were doing this all over the country. They were making millions. They were all over the internet. If you had something like you're a veteran, because I was getting hit with this stuff all the time on Facebook. So, I was filling out for disability and it intimidated me a bit, but I was advised to use a veteran service officer. However, there were few veteran service officers out there. I couldn't really get directed, and maybe because I didn't look hard enough, but I filled out the forms. All right, and I'm a good form filler outer. I was in military intelligence. I was in the police department as a detective. We fill out forms, right? We make reports, very succinct, like an intelligence report about what happened to me, where it happened to me, how it happened to me, everything else. Sent it in, and I actually I actually got my disability, and a lot of people are surprised at that. Now, what there are people out there now, more so than there were before, called veteran service officers, VSOs, all right? and they are certified by the Department of Veteran Affairs. So the Department of Veteran Affairs trains these people and then certifies them in how to fill out these forms, how to do a appeal, how to do these forms, how to follow up, how to help the veteran, how to guide them properly. So these guys, and they get paid to do this, like some of them $60,000, $80,000 a year, right? So they're getting paid to do this, but they do it for free. This is at no charge for the veteran. Some of them are paid for by the VA. Some of them are paid for by the Department of Veteran Affairs for the state of Illinois. Some of them are paid for by your county. So Cook County has a couple working for them. And then some of them are paid for by the American Legion. Some of them are paid for VFW. And any one of these, if you're a veteran, you could use. You don't have to be a member of the American Legion to use American Legion Veteran Service Officer. They're usually at the VA hospitals, right? Or for a VFW or the VVA, the Vietnam Veterans Association. So all these veteran organizations, they pay these guys. And now let's say it goes through and they deny it and then goes through an appeal and it gets denied. These organizations like the VFW and the American Legion have known lawyers that they work with, that they've worked with a long time, that take this on a further appeal. And again, it's at no cost to the veteran here, right? These claim sharks, as it said, they're charging the veteran for this stuff, all right? Stuff that he could get for free, all right? So they're just, it's like filing your taxes. Some guy goes in, he's got a 1040 EZ and it pays $50 for someone to write down a couple numbers and mail it in, right?
See, I have a totally different view of this. Okay. And I have this from quite a bit of experience. The one I'm going to tell you about is an analogy relating to Social Security, but it comes out of that. There's an individual with this person that I helped that had a veterans claim. Okay, a friend of mine got a really bad disease, and he had a lot of issues, and he went on disability. And the requirements of our disability were, and the individual was an attorney. The requirements of our disability were you had to file with Social Security. And he would go to Social Security and he would do exactly what you're saying. He would file the thing and they would mislead him. They would say, "Oh, how you feeling today?" And he would say, "Oh, I'm feeling better every day. I'm trying, and, I went through my treatments or whatever and stuff like that." So it comes to do the claim and they denied it. Okay. And he goes, I can't work and I have to file this thing and, can you help me? So the first thing we did was, this was the time we went to Congressman Lipinski, who's no longer there, and the districts changed. They referred us to a wonderful man from his office, and we went out to Orland and we met him. And the man was very wonderful. And he said, I used to be able to do these, through the office, but then they barred us. So he goes, "I'm going to refer you." And this is not a paid plug, but he sent me to this man called Mr. Miller out in the Hickory Hills area. And Mr. Miller's not an attorney, but I went with my friend and and I've since referred a lot of people to Mr. Miller. And Mr. Miller worked up the thing and he said, "I think we could win this." And of course, I had a hand in helping my friend and everything. So we went to a hearing, okay? And it was a trial, basically, and Mr. Miller represented him. And he had no friends at that hearing. Okay, Social Security, they had a man that all he did was say that he could fold towels. And if you could fold towels, you're SOL, you don't get anything. And what the judge was crafty enough to do, she gave him a recovery up to the date of that trial, which was a good thing. So he was able to get some back money, but then the state eventually took it back, part of it back from him. But you see, this Mr. Miller, he works on a set fee. So what I'm saying is the legislation should cap it. They should require a cap. So what happened was the state even recognized that they couldn't win this thing, and then they deducted the fee from what he had to pay back because they couldn't do it. Okay, so then and then this Miller guy's a genius. He said we could file a new, instead of filing an appeal like you're saying, he says we file a brand new one going forward. And then we did that, and then it was eventually successful. And again, he got a fee out of it. But when you go to these hearings, it's totally unfair because he had taken a vacation with one of his children, and he went to a fishing up in Canada. And the first thing that they brought out was that how were you able to drive to Canada if you're disabled? So these places have access to everything. They've got access to border records. They have access to, they send people out to look at you. And it's almost impossible to do that yourself without either representation or so. So what should be required is that these people that are doing this, instead of being sharks, they should be required to be like an enrolled agent or something like that, and the fee should be capped. And that would be the best resolution. And then thankfully, in the meeting again, there was the guy about the folding towels, and I just said something real simple to the judge. I go, he went to buy gas last month, and he left a 5-gallon tank and drove away. Okay, what's he going to do? He's going to drive a school bus and leave your kid on it and freeze it? Or what's he going to do? He's going to get a DHL package. He's going to deliver it, bearer bonds, and he's going to lose them, and you're out $10 million. I mean, and the judge agreed with us, despite the fact that he had gone to Canada, So I'm totally for regulation of the sharks, limiting their fee. But I'm telling you that these things are stacked against you, and there's nuances. Like, say you appeal it, they can then retroactively go back and then say, if you got a partial award or a small award, they can go back and take that away from you going forward too. So I'm all for going to people that have experience in it or are certified in it, and they don't have to be attorneys like what you're saying. They could just be officers. And I think there should be a push rather than them pushing this stuff about notices, because that means nothing. No one's there.
Well,
I have a writing. They could sign your name to it. There should be a push that there is an actual office in the state of Illinois that does that, particularly because we have a National Guard, and a National Guard is the component of the state. So there should be a requirement that the state itself represents you.
Now,
because they represent victims. They represent things like that.
Yes.
So there should be an office. And the guy that's in there now, instead of going around the country talking about crazy stuff, he should be pushing an office under his executive that does this.
There is.
So that people don't get ripped off by sharks. Because I'm going to tell you, when you go to those meetings, they give you some crap about the state's attorney has the power of the state behind them. It's the judge that's got the power of the state. And you are at a disadvantage at these hearings. And without help, you're going to lose, because you know what it is? It's a kangaroo court. And when I can tell you further that when you try to file an appeal, this relates to other issues.
Yeah.
I can show you that no one has ever won. They are against you. And I even had officers that were on the panel crying, and he still lost.
Yeah. Okay. So we're talking about two little things here, like Social Security. All right. That's for everyone in the nation, right? I have seen people fully functional, can lift like cars up and everything on full-blown disability because they're crazy, right? They're like from the age of 18 on. And then I've seen other people that have actually had serious injuries that, just like you say, they can't get it. And I'm not going to discuss why that is here, all right? Why that is here. But anyone that's been there knows exactly why. However, with the VA, there's an office, right? The Illinois Veterans Department of Veteran Affairs, right? And they have veteran service officers, like I said, trained people to help you with these forms, all right? They're there. They're for free, all right? What they're saying is these guys weren't letting these guys know about it, all right? Not everyone is a member of the Legion or the VFW or the Vietnam Veterans. Not everyone's a member of these veteran organizations, but a lot of veterans out there aren't even a member. They've never registered with the VA before. They've never done this stuff, right? Case in point, I go to these meetings and there's 150 people there. I go, who here is not registered with the VA? And there's like 20 hands go up. And I'm like, why not? You don't have to apply for benefits.
That there should be a state office that does this automatically.
Well, there's a county now the county thing we've been pushing through with Cook County, the Veterans Assistance Commission of Cook County, the VACCC, they're hiring VSOs to help people get these benefits. Now, it doesn't go like legal until you've had like your appeal denied. But these appeals, these VSO officers are very good at people that have filled out by themselves and didn't have a VSO officer and got denied. These VSO officers are very good, and they do get those overturned. I mean, they'll go to a doctor will deny hearing loss on a helicopter crew chief. Well, he's inside the helicopter. How could he hear the noise? How could he lose his hearing that way? And everyone in the Army goes, obviously, this lady's never been on a military helicopter. So then the VSO, Veteran Service Officer, comes in and he knows how to articulate this stuff, right? He knows how to write it out and send it up, and then it goes above her head because she's just some person, hired off the street, not a veteran, never had any military experience, just kind of reviewing this stuff. Rubber stamping stuff. She's got a list of things, yes, no, whatever. So in this case, what I say to people, the veterans, is file for your disability because the worst they can do is say no. But the best they could do is say yes to something. All right. And we're coming up on a break. So when we get back, we'll discuss more of this, but I don't think we'll be live on broadcast anymore. So if you're following this very heated, very passionate description of this stuff, please come back after the break. Thank you.
A recent Gallup poll indicated that 38% of Americans are putting off health care because of financial concerns, the highest ever recorded. I'm Dr. Bob Martin, here to serve you every Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4. Millions of Americans are seeking health advice that will not cost an arm and a leg, so I offer health tips and advice absolutely free. Listen to my show, Sunday afternoons from 1 to 4 right here on WRMN, AM 1410 and 96.7 FM, the voice of the Valley.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move, so I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
This is McGruff the Crime Dog, and I need you to help me take a bite out of crime. Counterfeit products are popping up everywhere. Fake sneakers, fake cosmetics, and even fake pills. Crooks are selling counterfeit versions of just about everything. Last year, billions of dollars worth of counterfeit products were sold in the U.S. Sure, it may seem like saving a few bucks on the things you want isn't a big deal, but counterfeits are usually made in unsafe conditions, potentially using hazardous and even lethal ingredients that could harm you and others. And the money you've paid, it goes right into the hands of criminals and may support child labor, drugs, and even gangs. Smells like big crime to me. So if you still think buying fake products is harmless, think again. And remember, if you don't know where the products came from, how could you know where the money goes? You're smart, buy smart. Go for real. Learn more at mcgruffpsa.org. This message is brought to you by the United States Patent and Trademark Office and the National Crime Prevention Council.
Most people out here think that taking care of one another is important. And most people would step up for a neighbor going through a tough time. Most people around here help out friends and family when they need it. But the funny thing is, most of us won't look for help when we need it. If you're struggling with mental health, you should know that there are resources out there that can help. And it's okay to talk about it if you need to. One place to get started with information is loveyourmindtoday.org. Loveyourmindtoday.org offers a range of guides, instructions, and insights for dealing with difficult situations or getting through a tough time. If you're struggling with mental health, get the help you need, because most people out here really care. Visit loveyourmindtoday.org. That's loveyourmindtoday.org. Brought to you by the Huntsman Mental Health Institute and the Ad Council.
Looking for an affordable dentist close to home? Bender Dental Care in Elgin offers new patient specials from $29, including x-rays, a regular cleaning, and exam. Senior discounts, a no insurance discount plan, and care credit financing. Bender Dental Care is a full-service family dentist with an outstanding 5-star Google rating. To find out more, call us at 847-888-4333. Bender Dental Care, affordable dentistry, close to home.
The Moose Lodge 799 in Elgin is a place to connect with family, friends, and your community. Moose Lodge 799 is conveniently located at 925 South McLean Boulevard, and they offer fun family activities, exciting community service projects, and live entertainment on the weekends. Moose Lodge 799 opens at 2 p.m. Tuesday through Friday and 11 a.m. on weekends. For more information about becoming a member, call 847-741-0799. Moose Lodge 799, where you're more than a member, you're family.
Okay, we're back for the Chief Guard of the Republic radio shout-out show. Today, for the second half hour, we're on the Facebook or YouTube streaming. And back on YouTube Live, I'll be able to cut this show and put it up on our webpage and on our YouTube channel, Chief Guard of the Republic YouTube channel. And Paul, I'm looking into getting your show because I couldn't find it to pull it down, but I'm sure Matt will help me out.
They ran it separately. I was able to download it off of their site.
Okay.
Yeah, I've been making them separately. You got your own playlist.
Job, but I couldn't find it.
It's on a playlist.
It's on the playlist because to him. Okay.
Yeah, it was real good.
All right.
You know, the flip side though is, the guy I helped had a friend that had the water case with the Camp Lejeune.
Yeah.
And he went through the same thing. So there was some help given to him, okay, and it wasn't really getting anywhere. So then he had to hire an attorney. And he finally got his resolution. But, you know, when you're hiring an attorney and you're doing it that way, it's limited. It's not 25% for the rest of your life. And so, and the future payments are different.
Yeah.
So
that's That's slightly different than the VA disability. That's a separate payout. And one of the things they were doing is the VA was going back and saying, well, you got this pay, you put in for a disability because you got colon cancer as a result of the tainted water at Camp Lejeune, right? So the VA gives you disability based on that colon cancer, right? And you trace it back to the thing on Camp Lejeune, and they give you disability payments. But at the same time, you also paid for the, what do you call it? Paid for the restitution because of the government and the contractors, and I would say negligence, right? That's a separate fund, all right? And the VA went to try to collect some of the money back from they were paying for disability from what they collected from that fund, and they came back and they said, no, you can't do that. It's two separate things. So it's not supposed to affect the VA thing. So that water thing is separate from VA disability. It could have caused you the VA disability, but the actual payback for that is separate. And so the main thing about this shark thing, all right, and I was looking at the overview of it, and they have to, yes, they have to tell you and they have to give you a written form, like the agreement, but they have to read that form out to you, all right? Just like reading the Miranda rights. You got to read them out to them, all right? Like verbatim, just so they can't you can't say I gave it to them, they read it, they scribbled, there's their signature, right? So you got to read it out to them. You got to let them know, listen, you could go to post 974 over there in Franklin Park, and they've got a guy there that's a VSO, a veteran service officer, and he works at Hines Hospital, all right? And you could hook up with him, and he could help you with the paperwork. And I know the guy, all right? I know the guy. This guy is ultra us-them, right? So when you become his client, all right, he's getting paid to hire it. You're not paying him a dime, but you're going to be his client. He treats you like you're his little brother. He goes after him like madly. Those are the guys you want to find because he's passionate without the money. All right. And what they wanted to do is say, hey, you have to tell these guys before they pay you a dime that the exact same thing you're doing is available for free. They might have to wait a day or two. It might take a little longer to get an appointment, but it's absolutely free. They don't do anything that the veteran service officer doesn't do. And they're available for free. But the thing is, like I said, not all the guys out there know about this, right? If you come into my Legion meeting, right, and you're a veteran and you're saying, hey, I need to file disability, but I don't want to join the Legion. I says, dude, okay, I'm going to take you over to 974 over here. We're going to talk to Ken, and Ken is going to take care of you, all right? Because we have a veteran service officer, or get a list of veteran service officer, or direct them, right? These guys, you go to Claim Shark, they weren't telling them any of that. They're like, we're the only ones to either you fill it out yourself or we do it. And when we do it, we know how to do it. But they're just, a lot of them are former veteran service officers that took the job because they paid them a little more, right? So, and you don't have to be, here's the thing, you don't have to be a veteran to be a veteran service officer. They will train you, all right? They like you have some association, but, they will train you. It's available for free. Yes, there should be a cap on the services, but I don't think they've made it illegal for them to do it. They've just put in these things that, if I'm selling coffee, this is like, and this is a thing at the VA. You go to Hines VA, and they actually have a Starbucks there. So you go to get your $250 million cup of coffee, right? Because I go to the VA because I can afford a very expensive cup of coffee. Or what if Starbucks said, hey, 50 yards down, there's a veterans group that's giving away free coffee. You think you made it that they had to post that Starbucks would stay in business over there? No. So these guys, like, now that they're forced to do this and tell them the list of where they could go and get them, and they're not making any money for it, why should they go out of their way in Illinois? So it's kind of like that one restriction on them, you know? It's like what I told this story before, but a lady in the suburbs when I was still working, you know, she's like, oh, there's this, what about these clowns, these guys, not a clown, an actual clown, a guy dressed up in a clown suit that's walking around the streets and scares people because you had the insane clown posse, and then you had these bunch of horror films come out with clowns. You know, clowns are evil, and people actually have a fear of clowns. I forget what the thing is. But she goes, shouldn't that be illegal? Shouldn't it be illegal? I says, no, I think it should be mandatory. I think that if you have a severe mental disorder like that, you shouldn't be able to leave the house without your clown suit. That way everyone could see, hey, the guy's walking around in a clown suit. He's a nutbag. Okay, my apologies to everyone that actually works as a clown, right? That's an actual profession. You make kids laugh and everything. But for the ones that are just whatever, you know, cross the street. You know, it's telling you that. And when it comes to these claim sharks, right? They've got to come out and tell you that, hey, this stuff is free. They got to put on their clown suit now. All right? They got to put on their clown suit and tell you this stuff is free. And, okay, short of fraud, all right, I could write up the biggest bunch of fiction you ever saw. I got some here, right? I could write up a bunch of fiction and put it on there and just know the key words to use, right? And get someone 100% disability until they check it out. And now exactly what you said before about they could go back, they not really go back, but they call you back in. You go for another VA and they're going to do the whole physical fitness on you. You come into the VA every 6 months for an appointment and they say, oh, you're much better now. All right. We're going to reduce your disability. And they can't do that. They can't do it. However, there is a rule of thumb that if you've been collecting it for 5 years, it like becomes permanent. All right. That's nothing written hard on that, but that's general practice. And the other thing is, if you're considered permanent service connected, they can't change that ever. All right, it says permanent service connected. They can't change that ever. So you don't have to worry about those things. It's not like these guys that and the police department, you know, and the fire department too. They go IOD, injured on duty, right? And then they're like, oh, I can't work. And they send out a couple detectives out there from IAD, right? And they filmed this guy put a new roof on his house. Well, obviously you're not as disabled as we thought, right? Yeah, there's fraud involved there. The main thing was this was a massive problem, and they were specifically targeting veterans. And again, not everyone is as read up on this stuff as I am, or others are, or have critical thinking ability, right? They just say, hey, why would these guys be in business if it wasn't legal? Why would they be advertising all over Facebook, all over Twitter, right? Why would they be sending things to my email? Why would I get these things in the mail, you know? Because Gmail read my mail once and I says, I'm thinking of applying for disability with the VA. And then all of a sudden, bam, I'm getting hit with this stuff because Gmail snitched on me. And they target the veterans like that. That's targeting. That's what artificial intelligence is being used for. That sort of targeting, to market this stuff for someone to make a buck off of them. And would you rather make $1 doing the bare minimum? Or would you rather make $1,000 for 1 hour's worth of work? All right. Or would you rather make $100 for 10 hours worth of hard labor? You know, that's what they take it. What was the thing? These companies, these legal companies that push for bankruptcy, right? Oh, file for bankruptcy for this, file for bankruptcy for that. And they want like $2,000 up front, thousands of dollars to file for it. It takes about 2 hours to do the paperwork. And anyone like myself that can fill out forms, right? Hey, look, now, it may have changed now, but hey, pull up a credit check, pull up your credit reports, and just cut and paste it over to the form and say, boop, I can't pay this anymore. And send it in, go to the courtroom, send in a bunch of, have the mail envelopes ready, go, boop, send that off, you're done. All right? Costs you the price of postage and filing. That's it. And all of a sudden, legal form. And do you think the lawyers are actually sitting down doing that? Or do you think they got an office full of, quote, paralegals filling out the form, doing exactly what I said? And they make thousands off of it. But they're lawyers. And where do you get judges from, Paul?
Lawyers.
So, and who buys more tickets, Paul? Who buys more tickets to the judge's daughter's wedding reception? Who comes with thousands of dollars of gifts? Public defenders, state's attorneys, or criminal defense attorneys?
I'd say criminal defense attorney.
There you. All right, so I'm getting a little bit off track there, but yeah. So
and the other big guy that buys them are the Trial Lawyers Association, buys all the tickets to the judges' fundraisers.
Yep. Yeah, because hey, they want to keep their money coming in. When I'm in court, I watch these public defenders fight their ass off for something they're entitled to. Like, they're fighting for this guy's rights. They're on the right track, They're doing their job really hard, right? And the judges just treat them like crap, And then the state's attorney is doing the same thing, but there's a private attorney there, and the judge is practically hitting the state's attorney with the gavel, and like, oh, excuse me, clerk, the defense attorney, the private defense attorney's coffee seems a bit tepid. Could you warm that up for them? And giving them just total leeway, everything, whereas you got to fight for it. So one of the things you're saying there with the Social Security stuff, right, is if you're friends with the people at Social Security, you're going to get, there are two cases. You could be friends with them, and you could be bringing people in for appeals, and then they look at you nicely, or they could be terrified of you, all right? And they're going to have to really not arbitrarily do anything because they don't want to look like fools when it gets completely overturned. If you're just a middle-of-the-road guy on that stuff, you're right, you're doomed. That's the one. It's like that all over the world. I saw it with the I don't want to mention their name. I don't like them enough, but with the it's not a union. It's a collective, with the collective bargaining element amongst the Chicago Police Department. All right, their friends can do no wrong. Right? If they got suspended, all of a sudden it'd be overturned or whatever, it'd be great. The people that they hated, right, that they were terrified of, that they were absolutely terrified, okay, they got some help too. If you're a middle-of-the-road guy, it was a flip of the coin whether they're going to sell you down the river or not, because they'll trade you for one of their friends. The VA, in my experience so far, all right, I've had very good experience at the VA. I think that's one of the things I'm very lucky in life in. I have nothing bad to say about Heinz, all right? Some things have happened, and I look at it like there was a reason that happened. There was a reason it happened. I offer that up to God. I says, God's direct me in a different direction. I'm not taking it out on Heinz. The process, one of my guys just went through it. It was even quicker for him, all right? And he went through it, and it was fine. All right. I suggest that every veteran registers with the VA. one of the reasons for this, you don't have to apply for disability, but you should. You never know when you're going to get, when the injuries that you had in the service, the things you were, what do you call?
Exposed to?
Yeah, exposed to, like depleted uranium. One of the things that they pretty much drew down a lot of the Gulf War syndrome to these guys marching exposed through the sand past all the road of death with all these vehicles. And all these vehicles were destroyed by helicopters and A-10s firing depleted 30 millimeter depleted uranium rounds. That when they hit these vehicles, and hundreds of them hit each vehicle, it's not just one, it's like 100 hit this thing looking for a soft spot. And they were fracturing off parts of uranium, dust particles of uranium all over the area. So guys are walking through and they're picking up these particles, right? So you don't feel this for like 15 years later, So file for it. There's always an appeal. It's never absolutely final. And if it goes final, then you get a lawyer, but you don't get one of these lawyers that's advertising on TV. You get a lawyer that one of these veteran service groups trusts and uses. All right?
Absolutely.
All right. You don't take a FOP lawyer. Yeep. But you get, let's see, yeah, man, this is pretty in depth. I wanted to do a little more, but if the VA, the federal VA, all right, for people that are suffering from emotional stress, right? Sometimes it's a very long wait to get in with the Hines VA. There are other services out there, the Long Road Home, all right? That's from Rush Hospital. That's a private organization. But they also have counselors over at the Illinois Department of Veteran Affairs, all right? And they have offices scattered all throughout the state. And you could set up appointments with counselors there. And the thing is, if you're a veteran, use these things. Go out there and get them. You can find a lot of these links on my Post webpage. So I'm part of the American Legion Post 104 in Schiller Park, Illinois. And our webpage is post104.org. So POST104.org. And there it is. And would you pull up the links, please? Links. Yeah, so you click on these flags and it takes you to any of these organizations here. All right, takes you to their webpage. So it's a good starter point to find, like, Cook County. All right, we even list, the VFW in there. So you need help with these things. It's out there. You got to look for it. The other thing is, you'll hear a lot of horror stories about the VA, about going through the VA. It can be complicated, it can be intimidating. You can run into the wrong person, all right? But don't believe the stories. As everything else, experience for yourself. Look at it, examine it, do some critical thinking. Don't just listen to some guy screaming like me. Right? You may have a totally different view than me, totally different experiences. Research it for yourself. I have had very good outcome with Hines. My friend has lesser outcome with Lovell. Lovell is interesting because it's combined. Lovell is in by Great Lakes, so they combined the actual Great Lakes Military Hospital. Great Lakes is the largest naval training base in the nation. It's the only one where they go through boot camp. And they combined it with the Northside VA. So it's all one now. So they share doctors and nurses and facilities, which is good, and they do a lot. I think Lovell is one of the VAs where if they're going to institute a new system, they start it there and see how it works out. So any follow-up, Paul?
No, I mean, I think it's great that they have these services. Again, I think it's an obligation of the state to make sure that particularly their veterans are taken care of, and I think they need to provide a program like this. And I think that, it's good that the county's doing it. I think the city should do it. But I also think that it's a responsibility of the state. I mean, when we were at the Attorney General's office, we had a Veterans Affairs office.
We met that guy.
Pardon?
He comes to the VACC meetings.
Right. And there's been, I'm going back to Al Lynch was the first guy over there. So, and he's a Congressional Medal of Honor winner, but they should provide a program like that, because these people are our residents. They, I hear stories because I look at some veterans YouTube channels, and they always joke around, like if you're in a tank and you take fire or something like that, those people are all deaf, and the Veterans Administration won't acknowledge that it's from being in the tank taking the fire and stuff like that. And I think that's real sad, because these people are the ones who are protecting us and defending us, and without them, we wouldn't be here. And I think we owe them an obligation.
Yeah, the many things that I've seen in the military, you take it right over. Like, the brigade wasn't passing through our awards because they didn't have a letter of lateness with them. All right. And the awards were put in like the day after the event. So how could it be late? You got 2 years to put it in, right? So you don't really need a letter of lateness. But the checklist for the person at brigade said letter of lateness. So if she didn't see a letter of lateness in there, she kicked it back. So no critical thinking on her part. Zero, right? Just following the checklist. And you go to the VA, you're going to have people there, all right? No critical thinking. They've been given a checklist. And, okay, they're inside a tank. Well, they got hearing protection on or whatever. Okay, so they couldn't have lost it because they think the hearing protection actually works. I'm like, oh. If you're wearing the hearing protection, how can you hear your tank commander telling you to fire? How can you hear someone say, I got my foot stuck in this or whatever? So yeah, that's a problem. And that's where VSO comes in.
Though, sound waves go through bone. It wouldn't matter.
It's, yeah, no, there are those.
I guess none of these people ever saw Flash Gordon or Buck Rogers or anything like that. Okay,
No, they haven't. They have people are getting a lot younger. I mean, I'm getting older, but the people coming up doing these jobs are getting a lot younger, and they don't remember the old days of stuff. Hey, remember a rotary dial phone? Huh? Oh, they haven't had those since Alexander Graham Bell invented it. Yeah. I'm like, okay. Black and white television? AM radio? All right. So thank you. We'll see you next week. All right. Chief Guard of the Republic.
Have a good week.
Yep. Thanks, Paul. Bye.
Bye-bye.